Younger people of Reddit. What are you tired of hearing from older generations? Go to school, get a job, get married, have kids, retire, then die. Don't believe everything you see on the internet. My parents when I was a teenager in the late 90s. Now I have to tell my parents that. I was at GF's parents' place and she told us something generally unbelievable she read about on Instagram, and I casually asked if that was verified to have actually happened, and her mother very sarcastically replied, "Oh, are you one of those fact-checker types? Like that is some sort of insult or something to want to know the truth." I guess my parents and teachers just reinforced the whole, don't believe something just because you read it on the internet. You kids and these damn phones. My parents are on their phones more than I am by a lot. My sister is married to an older man and he does this to me all the fucking time. I'll be having a conversation about a movie when I reach for my phone to check who the director was and he'll yell from across the room, "Oh my god, BW_bird, can you put your phone down for more than 2 seconds?" Edit. Whenever he does this, I just look at him and politely explain why I took my phone out and then go back to whatever I was looking up. Acting rashly would only escalate the situation. My grandfather, who's 86, would definitely agree with your first point. He always talks about how his friends would be like, "Don't you miss the good old days?" And he would be like, "Oh, you mean when I worked in an iron ore mine for $4 a day and had to go outside to shit in -20-degree weather because we didn't have indoor plumbing on the farm? Yeah, I don't think those days were quite as good as you remember, bud." Edit. To the people commenting something along the lines of, what they meant by good old days is back when they could say the N-word and sexually harass women without repercussion, just please move along. This wasn't meant to be a political, social statement. It was an endearing comment by my grandpa about how technology has made life easier. This kind of shit is why middle America doesn't vote Dem anymore. It's because of holier-than-thou losers like you that have to turn everything political and their association of you with that party. Please just fuck off. Edit. I vote Democrat in every election despite them constantly shooting themselves in the feet with stupidity, because their platform aligns closest with what I personally believe. Most of you have missed my point entirely. Thank you for reaffirming my belief that humanity is a bunch of dumb cunts not worth saving, and I pray for a giant meteor to end this all. Sincerely, Santa Claus. I do love the complaints about kids not playing outside anymore nowadays. Especially by people from the generation who did everything in their power to make just being outside aggressively terrible. Either through a large decrease in the number of places kids can play, an increase in the number of cars and just vehicles in general, or by making laws against things like simply hanging out. Of course we're going to prefer being on the phone over that. This is a really good point. I hadn't considered parents complaining about kids never wanting to go outside, not realizing, taking responsibility for the fact that being outside isn't the same as when they were young, or even me. I'm 33 and when I was 10 to 15 I was always outside, but in the post-9/11, post-Columbine era, kids are often overprotected and micromanaged, and everything is so damn expensive. There's also very few places for kids to hang out. I remember reading a story about some parents from Michigan who had their kids taken by CPS because there's actually a statewide law that kids under 18 aren't even allowed to be at the park unsupervised, and this one family got reported abs and all kinds of shit because their 12-year-old would often play in the park just down the street from their house, in a suburb. Wild. I don't really get this. I grew up in the early 2000s. Was out on my grandparents' farm when I was about 5 to 6, started learning how to take care of animals. They sold the farm and I went and stayed at grandparents on the other side of my family every weekend after that, had friends, we'd go outside, play football, ride bikes, go to the park, etc. Did the same on weeknights at home too with my siblings, but I always heard about how kids don't go outside. Everyone's inside playing their damn video games because I dared to have a PS2 and liked watching movies when it rained. Now, I hear this same sentiment going on while I can hear every kid in the city outside playing around my apartment complex, starting to think people just really like complaining about young people for no reason. How we can't fix anything ourselves. Then promptly ask us to fix their Wi-Fi, set up their new phone and figure out why their computer is running slow. We can do plenty, we just have a different skill set. No joke, my dad did this time me. I didn't know how to change my tire on my car at 18. He never showed me, complained about it, and told me to figure it out. Not 10 minutes later his Wi-Fi went out and asked me to fix it. I told him to figure it out. My dad did this to me too, when I was growing up. If I didn't know how to do something practical, he'd scoff and say, "Don't you even know how to do this?" when he had never taught me. Thankfully, I learned to teach myself from Google and YouTube. I'm trying to do better with my own daughter and teaching her everything I think she needs to know and explaining so she knows the reasoning behind why certain things are done. Edit. I just wanted to clarify that even though my dad would comment, "Don't you even know that?" I don't think he was being an asshole, as he'd just do what needed to be done for me by himself. He was just really bad at teaching and explaining things, so he'd just do things for me. I'm tired of people complaining about how younger people are terrible as though they weren't the ones that raised those younger people to be what they are. I am 50 and I am struggling with the desire to see my parents' generation fade away as soon as possible. My father-in-law is currently dying at 85 years old, and his answer to all existential concerns like environmental issues and education and access to healthcare is always, "Who's going to pay for all that?" The answer is obviously me and my children's generation, who are going to be paying out the ass because his generation worshipped money and comfort and convenience. The young people always just want to drink and go to parties. 1. No. 2. Don't pretend like you didn't do this too long. Drink coffee and go to LAN parties. So wild. As an older person, I say this often. Not as a point of detriment, but as a matter of fact. Young people want to drink and go to parties. Obviously. Why wouldn't you? Being young and in your early 20s is the perfect time to be drinking and partying. It's when it's the most fun. It's when spending a whole weekend partying isn't gonna lead to ruining your week, or getting you in trouble at work, or at least getting in trouble at the shitty job you have that doesn't really matter, isn't a big deal. It's when all of your friends are usually available at a moment's notice instead of struggling to even get in contact with your buddies and work around their schedules to find a time where 3 people can meet up for in just an hour. It's when the work to prepare for a party doesn't outweigh the benefits of actually going. When you don't have to spend a week preparing, trying to balance your responsibilities so that being away for a night doesn't screw up your plans. Where you have to arrange things for giving yourself a buffer day to recover from said party, while making sure you aren't stuck doing shit you hate doing but have to anyways, and making sure you don't have to do it while hungover. And you do all that just to have half of your friends cancel because they couldn't manage to make all that work on their end, and you end up with the 3 buddies that could, and it's just hanging out, drinking and playing cards for a few hours and going home. Seriously, young people should want to drink and party. If you don't do it then, you just miss out because it only gets worse from there. I give my son a heads up that dinner will be ready in X minutes, so don't get involved with anything. I'll give a reminder 10 to 15 minutes before 2. But I game too, so I understand. This right here. My kids enjoy Minecraft and Fortnite. So when it's time or about time for something, I tell them time to head back to base. Or finish our rounds. I don't expect them to be ready instantly. Although sometimes I do get lucky and they are just in pre-lobby or we're already back doing something else. But I know about how long it should take for them to be logged off and ready. I'm sick of hearing about them bitching about participation trophies. I got one in middle school and was told to appreciate that I got it. I didn't want it. I knew that I hadn't done anything to deserve a trophy. It went into a drawer and was forgotten. People love complaining about how participation trophies have ruined children when it was the adults that decided to hand them out. How idiotic is it to basically say, "Here's your award for existing," followed by, "You fuckers need to be awarded for just existing," in nearly the same breath? Pull yourself up by your bootstraps and work harder. Buddy, I've been working 60+ hours a week and prices keep going up and my pay is not, and I actually cannot afford to change jobs, change my living situation, buy a more fuel-efficient car, or go to college. There actually is no out. There is no work harder and I'll make it. I'm literally in the poverty trap. I'm slowly making my way out of it, but it's going to be a long-ass time unless some other opportunity magically appears. College isn't the price of a McDouble anymore, old man. You should really buy a house and settle down. I'm bloody well trying, Karen. Just cause you bought your house in the 60s for $40K and a blueberry, off your husband's salary, whilst you were a stay-at-home mom, then sold it for $600K this year to retire off of doesn't mean that it's the same for this generation, right now. Far from it, in fact. Just shut up. When I was your age, I already had 5 kids and 2 grandchildren, or, my granddaughter is your age and she already has 3 kids. When are you going to give you mom some grandkids? I'm 30. Not that old, not that young. But this kind of comment? Definitely old for me. I'm so tired of older ladies saying this. I think I wasn't even 18 when they started. They don't accept any reasonable answer that isn't a, I'm working on it. A, maybe later, or, I'm doing my best to get a steady career before having kids, or, we are saving. Gets them on a rampage saying some BS about kids not costing a thing and that I'm getting old or that women were born to be mothers or whatever. So I started being rude. Sorry, but not sorry. No one wants to work anymore. First of all, no one ever wanted to work. That's why it's called work, and not fun. Second of all, maybe it's that no one wants to work at your job that lists itself as entry-level but wants 5 years of experience and a master's degree along with being able to work 12-hour days at minimum wage. Not just that, you put yourself out there time and again. And when you finally get the interview, I know the job. I know the kind of worksite I will be around. I am not 16 to 18 and stumbling my way in here, so I would like to get straight to the point. Pay. I need steady hours and a pay that is fitting for the work I am doing and the conditions I am doing it in. I have to be able to safely cover rent and my other bills. It says hiring at 13 to 18 per hour. Why? Is that for someone who doesn't know what they are getting into? I know this job is dangerous and I would like a fair pay. I am looking for 17.25 to start with raises coming later to end up around 20/21 of a per hour. What? You can't? I've seen your workplace. I know the job you do. I know what I would have to clean and maintain and I can do it. I am asking for fair pay because I've seen where I will be working and the kind of labor I will be doing. Want higher for that pay because it's not worth it? This is a steel mill. You literally make fresh steel to ship out. I am not going to break my back doing hard labor and not get fair pay. That's what it comes down to. Companies don't want to pay a fair wage and people don't want to be taken advantage of and treated like shit anymore. As a 29-year-old, tired of older people telling me I'll understand joint pain, tiredness when I'm older. I'm disabled and chronically ill. I have had bad joints since birth. Like it's great that all your health problems are a result of your age, but mine have been around and will worsen because of that. When you're older you'll agree with me. FFs, just because you're older doesn't mean you're always right or that you know the answers to all my life's problems. You grew up in a different time period, with different problems, and different social views. Your problems might be similar, and you might be right some of the time, but that is no excuse to shut down every logical point I make against your beliefs with this line. 3-4. I'm sick of hearing about how young people just spend all their time on TikTok. How they have stupid dances. How they're just staring at screens all day, blah blah blah. Yes, they do all that stuff, but we had stupid dances when we were younger. We sat in front of the TV all day. I've yet to see someone with square eyes. Also, hearing about how kids, young people today have no respect for their elders. MFs were doing the same shit that people today are doing now. The difference is, everyone has a camera in their pocket. I'm 64 and I'm really tired of listening to people my age whine about stuff that younger people do. It definitely was not better when we were kids. A phone isn't that effing hard to figure out. It's not that nobody talks anymore. It's just that nobody wants to talk to you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next Reddit post.